everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hearthstone Meta Hype. Now, I'm here with Ecor, and as you know, we did segment 1 over on his channel. We do this show every week. We got a new starting time, which is going to be on Tuesdays. I think we agreed to, 11 a.m. or 8 a.m. on Tuesdays, I thought, right? Yeah, that's
really early.
Pacific time. Pacific time. Ecor and I are dedicated. We're up early, and so it's 8 a.m.
I just
Pacific,
schedule it. I'm not up until like 11, man.
It's 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays is the new start time. Also good news too for the esports team. We got the sponsorship in. We got the microphones now that are sponsored by Fifine, which is something pretty exciting. But Ecor, what's going on with these cards? What are we talking about today? What are we going to talk about?
Well, we're going to be talking about cards that we think are underrated. And we talked about cards we thought were underrated on my segment that were specifically like tech cards, right? Because people aren't running silence and the secret removal or weapon removal, which I just thought was interesting considering at least a couple of those things are pretty popular in the meta right now. But we're going to talk about on this segment cards that are just potentially good in general, but a little bit out there, right? Cards that aren't necessarily tech cards themselves, but are still like situationally good, kind of like tech cards. And they're all interesting. I like every single card that you're talking about.
Yeah, the first one that we really got to talk about this one because I went to your stream and credit is due where it is. You'll give the credit to the person that gave you the initiative. But I used to play this card a lot in some big decks, like even Big Warrior. I tried this one out. I tried it out in Warlock as well with Corrupt's ticket is. This is Keymaster Alabaster, which is a 7 mana 6/8. Whenever your opponent draws a card, add a copy to your hand that costs 1. I mean, it just seems like living the dream, doesn't it? You dropped on turn 7, you get something really nice your opponent's drawing, and it's a big enough body to not be answered by your opponent right away. I mean, they have to deal with it. The only thing they could do maybe is silence it. Maybe they'd have to kill it. They got to kill this card. It's a must kill. What do you think about Keymaster Alabaster?
I've always liked this card. I ran it not like a ton in the past, but I've run it in the past, and it usually gets some pretty good value. Like I was able to get a Yogg-Saron one time, I remember, which was really, really hype. I'm pretty sure I had to have won that game. I actually don't remember the outcome, but point is, I remember stealing a Yogg-Saron. I've stolen some other pretty good things in the past, like Rattlegores. And I've played it this expansion, and it was because I watched, you were saying give credit where it's due. I watched D-Money play it once in his Control Pre, so I was like, hey, that looks like it could be fun. I forgot that this card existed for a little bit. I played this card, and I played against like 4 Spell Mages in a row, and I got 2 Brain Freezes and 2 Devolving Missiles off of Keymaster in those 4 games. Was a little bit disappointing, to say the least, considering the fact that so many decks right now are so fast. Like, Paladin runs very few expensive cards. Like, if I could steal an Alexstrasza or a Hammer of Naru, that would be great. But for the most part, Paladin has only 1 through 3 costs. Mage has very cheap cards, although it does have some really good burn spells like Mask of Cthulhu. If I could steal that, would be really, really solid. But again, not too many. Hunter, fairly cheap. Rogue, very cheap cards, or like specific combos that might not be good. So like, I don't feel like it was good in this meta. It just feels too fast, or like the cards are too situational, but it does still feel good if you get something really lucky, like a Yogg-Saron.
Yeah, it's a very cool card. Now here's one of the cool things though too is I like here's the dream. You want to hear the dream?
What's the dream?
Here's the dream. Fordring is on the board, the one that draws the highest.
Oh, you play it when you plan to kill him. That's genius, actually.
Yeah, you play it and kill him, right? And then so you draw their highest card, and then you end the turn, and then you get another card. How does that sound? Ooh,
that's pretty good, actually. And yes, there are ways you can set it up, I guess, to draw the best cards, but I feel like 8 out of 10 times this. Well, that's a bit like 6 out of 10 times this card will be kind of bad.
Yeah, but what about if you do a Vol'jin? you have this in your hand and you can somehow cheat it out on turn 5.
Earlier or turn it too early. I mean, I guess that could be good. That could be decent.
Yeah.
I feel like trying to build a deck around him is weird, but maybe. I feel like he'd be better if Res Priest was still a thing and you could like revive him or like another copy of him and just start drawing tons of copies of your opponent's cards. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore and this can't be revived from Rally. But darn it, now I'm trying to think of creative ideas to play this card and it's too late because the cards that it would be great great with are gone.
Well, there is the 0 mana spell.
There is Raise Dead, you're right.
Which is Raise Dead, which is for Warlock and for
Yeah, the only
priests,
issue
right?
is you'd have to pay the 7 mana again to play them. I'd rather have a way of cheesing them out, you know?
Well, back to back, baby. You just don't play any cards, so you're guaranteed to get them. You just sit there and pass until turn 7.
It's like, yeah, I don't play anything.
But this card is just crazy. It's a lot of fun. It's something to try. Maybe there are some things. It will stick around a little bit too. Yeah. It's from the Scholomance Academy, so it could, you never know, get some support. It might be something that you'll see not only this meta, but maybe you could see it next meta or the meta after. So it'll be around for a while, which is nice.
Also work with it. Sorry, but they could also work with the Murloc 2/3. That's 2 mana. That says both players draw a card. You could play like this and force your opponent to draw a card, which would allow you to, you know, get 1 extra card for cheap, which could be good. Like, I feel like there are ways that this could actually be a pretty decent card, but it would have to have some very like specific things set up, and I just don't know if the payoff's really worth it. Like, it could be good, and it's a sticky minion, but getting 2 cards for 1 mana if they end up being really good could just win you games. Like, a 1 mana Yogg-Saron, that's just gonna win you a game. A 1 mana Prime, just gonna win you the game.
How about this though? How about Keymaster in a Druid deck or a Shaman deck where you can mana cheat and you could play it sooner. You know what I mean? Like, it's probably good in Druid and Shaman.
Yeah, Shaman lacks card generation and card draw, so having this in there might not be that bad. And it would mean that running Prize Vendor wouldn't be that bad either in the Shaman deck. I could see it being decent. You know what? Gosh darn. Okay, now I'm gonna have to try this. Oh my god.
Yeah, we're gonna try it. Yeah, both of us. I'm streaming. I'm streaming during the week too, so I'm gonna have to try this card out. This is
trying to grind to Legend, but here I am. Now I have to experiment with Keymaster because it might actually be good.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yeah, I know, it's crazy. Maybe our Elemental Shaman. Maybe we could figure out a way to drop it in that. But next card up, anyway, is Deathhead's Cultist. Now this one is not necessarily that it's a very good card. This is more like your not so good card that I see a lot of play. But maybe it's good. Maybe I don't know. And the reason why I selected it is because I wanted to talk to Ecor about it. Because you
don't think this card's
get
good?
From the master. Yeah.
I think this card's
really
like
good. About it though.
Like the only reason why it's got a low-ish win rate is because it's being run in kind of bad decks like Control Warlock and Death Rattle Demon Hunter and apparently Ping Mage, which, like, you need the health. Like, it would be even weaker without this card. Like, healing 4 in those 3 decks, or at least 2 of them. Ping Mage is just kind of bad in general, but gaining health in Warlock, you need it.
Yeah, you do. And the thing is that if you're running in those decks and stuff, like the concept, like conceptually, it should work really well. But the problem that it has is that 3 mana to 4, the attack. It's like hard to slot in and like use it correctly. Like, it's such a bad card. This card is kind of bad though, like in the early game, right? In your deck in the early time. I hate when like you're playing Warlock and you get this on say turn 3 and you have nothing. I don't know. It's just it's a difficult card to play. I think the timing. I think that's what it is I think people don't play it at the right time. So maybe that's why the win rate is so low. What do you think about that? Is it a timing issue for people, you think?
I mean, I don't think it's really that big of a timing issue. Like Warlock, by the time you've played it, you've probably life tapped at least once. And then you play it turn 3, you've probably taken some extra damage from their minions. You're gonna heal the 4 health regardless. Slows them down early. I mean, there are times in the late game where, let's say you're playing against, I don't know, like a big deck with some bigger minions, like, I don't know, like a Warlock, I guess, and they have Jiraxxus, they're summoning their 6/6s, and you want to play it a little bit later to block a 6/6 as opposed to playing it before they play Jiraxxus, because there's really no point. It doesn't block as much damage. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that timing's that big of an issue. I just think it's a good card. It's just the decks that are in it, or the decks that it's in, are bad. Like, Control Warlock just takes too much damage.
1 second though. Yeah, but 1 second. I'm not saying that I'm saying that people are playing it at the wrong time. Like the sample size is played wrong. So you don't think it's at all that related to when people are playing it or how they're playing or when they're using it? You think that it's just in bad decks?
Not really. Yeah, I think that it's mostly just in kind of bad decks. It's a really good card, and I don't think that it's that hard to play this deck at the correct time. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'm playing at the wrong time and could be playing it better. I just think that a 3 mana 2/4 that restores 4 HP, it's just a better Kartuk Defender. And Kartuk Defender you'd always play if you're getting aggroed down and you've lost some HP. You just play it. Like, they trade into it, might lose a minion. You stop at least 4 damage because of taunt, and then you heal 4. Like, I will say sometimes, let me correct, I guess you can play it badly into a mage because they have devolving missiles. So I feel like, I guess into that matchup specifically, maybe wait until you bait out a devolving missiles, so then you can play Death's Head cultist to guarantee the heal. But other than that, I think it's not really that hard.
Yeah, I think we got stuck on that hard thing. I meant, like, I was saying it was hard. I didn't mean to say hard. I just said I don't think it's that hard to play. I just think that it might be misunderstood of when it's being played, and also possibly because the mana against, the play against mage, there's a lot of mages in the deck. I mean, that's part of why the win rate is low, is because it's not a great card against mage per se.
In the decks that it's in, they suck versus mage. Like, no minion mage with its burst is almost always, and devolving missiles is almost always going to beat Death Rattle Demon Hunter, because devolving missiles stops death rattles. It's almost always going to kill Control Warlock because of damage from hand. It's going to always beat Ping Mage because Ping Mage kind of sucks. And those are the three most common decks it's found in. And mage is played a lot. And I don't know. I just think that it's a great card for this meta because the meta is so fast. There's so much aggro and tempo. It's just the aggro and tempo in the meta is just so strong that this one card can't stop it. It barely even slows it down. Like, I can't tell you how many times where I've played both of them, gained 8 HP against a face hunter, and still lost by turn 8 as like a warlock or anything into hunter or paladin or mage. Like, it's just the meta is so fast right now. This card is needed in order to like maybe survive, but it's also still not enough.
This card is like it's a great target for a tundra rhino. For a rhino, for the rhino, it's just such a great target.
Because they also just kill it.
It's like, oh, no problem, 4 health, no problem. I'll just buff my rhino up to 7 or 9 attack.
And it's like you only heal 1 at the end of the day, and they killed your minion because they do 3 trample damage. I don't know.
So it's interesting. This card is just interesting for that sake. Like, why isn't it have a higher win rate? So we're gonna ask the audience.
I think it's a very balanced card, though. I don't think it needs a buff or anything, or even I think it's a very balanced card. I just want to throw that out there. Just saying that it's not good enough is mostly just saying how powerful other stuff is. Like, I think this card is very well designed and very good in general. Like,
all right, with this card, I mean, really, we want to hear what you guys got to say in the comments below. I mean, because this card is definitely should be a better card to play. It should have a higher win rate, and I know Ecor agrees. We just want to hear what you guys got to say. So the next card up we got is Educated Elec. This is like one that's like kind of the dream, and I know that you said, Ecor, that this one was good in the priest, right?
I've seen it played in
This is the 3 mana, 3/4. Whenever a spell is played, this minion remembers it. Death Rattle, shuffle the spells into your deck. Remember that one, guys?
Yeah.
What do you think about this card? What do you think?
I think that it looks fun, and it should theoretically be good because how popular spell mage is, and how many pump spells paladin has, and even hunter has a lot of like cheap spells. Same with rogue. It just doesn't see that much play, and I think the big problem with it is that if you shuffle a lot of those cheap spells and stuff into your deck, although it could help into like a fatigue matchup, so maybe running 1 copy in a control warlock, right? Like, actually, this might not be bad in like mill warlock. Actually, now that I think about it, now I'm thinking about this out loud, it might not be bad in a mill warlock where you play this, a couple of other spells, and then you get rid of it, but obviously do this after you've gotten down to 0 cards and played Niru, then you put cards back into your deck. So I feel like it has potential, but into the decks that it would be best into, like paladin and mage will just devolving missiles it, and paladin will just use 1 spell, pump up a minion, and then kill it, and you only end up getting 1 card out of this anyway. But just like in the last segment with the Horde Operative, it is still a 3 mana 3/4 with the potential to have a good ability. So like, even at its worst, it's not that bad. And I think that the reason why its win rate is low, because its win rate is also low, is because it's only played in some iterations of Control Priest, and the sample size is literally like 2 decks, 670 games and 220 games in total. Like, when you think about how many games are played every day, which I think is like 1.3 million Hearthstone replay alone, having less than 1,000 game sample size is pretty small, and this is over multiple days worth of data. So like, like the statistics say that it's a bad card, but again, it doesn't have enough play rate to like actually know. And I think it has potential. Might try it in a mill warlock now that I see it and I think about it out loud. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, kind of cool. It's kind of cool that mill warlock thing. I didn't really think of that, but I think the main reason why this card doesn't see play is because it's that deck thinning thing that we've talked about in other episodes. If you have the Educated Elec in hand and then you play it out and your opponent starts putting, like you said, cheap spells that really don't really help you that much per se, they're more like if you get something that is like building, like it's a building block for other thing. In other words, like the spells you get are just random and they don't really have support and they kind of don't make sense. So all of a sudden you're just like, you're playing a control warlock and you draw like nature studies on the next turn instead instead of drawing something that could actually help
I mean,
you.
Nature Studies is a really good card, but that's I get your point though. I see your point.
Yeah, it's a good card, but like if you're playing Warlock, you might want to draw like Ticketus on turn 6 instead of Nature Studies. You know what I'm saying? Like it's it kind of like gets to that realm of where you're like all kind of in this weird place. You sort of start playing other people's decks, and I don't know. I really would like the card to be good. In theory, it should be excellent, but I think that's the main reason why is because it kind of fattens up your deck. It just there is sometimes you get some crappy stuff that just won't synergize well with what you have in there.
I mean, you could time it well, right? Like you could wait until turn 7 or 8 to play this against Warlock to play around, Twisting Nether. You could play this on 6 or 7 to play around Mask of Cthulhu in Mage, although Mage could draw free Devolving Missiles because of Incanter's Flow and render your entire plan useless because Mage is stupid. But like you could time that. Play this on curve turn 3 against a Paladin and maybe get a Blessing of Kings. But yeah, it's still ultimately gonna be random for you, and it like 8 out of 10 times will probably be a bad card, and it'll feel good in those 20 to 30% of the time where it's like a good card and you're really happy to put it in your deck, but I feel like a majority of them won't. But you also have to consider the fact that it remembers your cards too. Like you'll just get other copies. Say you're playing this in Warlock, you can shuffle 1 or 2 more Drain Souls back into your deck, which could end up being really, really important.
True.
Like late game or something like that, or like Siphon Soul or Cascading Disaster. Like this card could still be good. I just think that it's maybe too situational. But now I've got to try it out as well because I'm thinking of all these combos. Same with the stupid Keymaster. Gosh darn it.
This entire episode we're gonna just you're gonna see that it'll just change our win rates to like 35%.
Yeah, now we're gonna experiment.
We'll be trying out some really, really different cards. So having said that, we're gonna get on out of here. This is the end of the Hearthstone Meta Hype for today. And again, there's a new starting time. You can see segment 1 over on Ecore's channel. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel so that you can see more stuff just like this. And we will see you next time. Oh, you know what? I forgot something, Ecore.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Stay hype.
And we'll see you next week. Is that what do you want me to say it? This is always your thing,
Let's
man.
go.